iRacing International, and welcome to the third round of the SSRi TCR second season. We're very excited to be here at Silverstone, the wonderful home of British motorsport that is Silverstone, on the incredible legacy 2008 international layout for another night of touring car racing. My name is Chaz Draycott, and I'm very, very happy to jump in tonight once again to cover some of the action. It's great to be here on the channel. It's actually my debut on the channel tonight, so great to be here. And I'm joined, of course, by the man that's doing all of the hard work behind the scenes as well that I know maybe a bit too much about. Steve Proudley is in the box with me as well to have a good chat with me. Steve, it's actually great to work together, not just in this regard on camera-wise, but also on the mic as well, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's good to be here. Good to have a bit of fun with the community and see what's going on a classic old Silverstone layout that has had the lads chatting in the background. It's taken a little bit of getting used to, as you can imagine. They're all far too familiar with the new Silverstone layouts, and it's good to just drag a little bit of retro back into the race calendar, I think.
Yeah, indeed. This is a circuit that used to be a real staple on the British Touring Car Championship calendar. Twice a season in some years, this actually appeared on the calendar as well. There were some very, very famous title-deciding races around here in 2000 at the very end of the season, where Alan Menu won the British Touring Car Championship that year for Ford after an incredible year of dominance for them. But these modern TCR machines, they might struggle around a circuit like this because while it's flat, and as well, people think Silverstone's boring, but it's very, very flat, that's for sure, as Matthias Niger gets it all a little bit wrong through the right-hander at Maggots. It can be a bit of a challenge in ways because there's little tiny bumps and little rises and falls around this circuit, isn't there, at the same time, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a little bit rough around the edges in places for definite, and they were complaining about a little bit of loss of grip earlier on and the lacking in traction and stability through the corners, but it's going to test them. They're going to have a bit of fun. We have got a slightly depleted grid this evening. We've had about 6 or 7 sign-outs in the last couple of hours with people just not feeling too good and other family commitments going on with it being a Sunday evening. So I think we've got around about 8 or 9 drivers currently in the server, but it's going to be fun because we've got they're in qualifying currently, as you can see, 10-minute qualifying session, then we're going to have a 20-minute race based on the qualifying results, and then we will move into a 30-minute feature race which will reverse the top 6 on the grid. So 2/3 of the grid are going to be reversed tonight, so that'll make it interesting for them as well. And there's some pretty quick drivers, I'm happy to say, that haven't signed out, so the battling is going to be just as intense, even with a lower number of cars, I think.
Yeah, it should be good fun. I mean, even if there's only 9 cars on the grid, you know, it still can be 9 very tough nuts to crack, as I've heard a lot of commentators say before, when it comes to making your way through the order. It's nice and bright and beautiful here at Silverstone, what is effectively in the sim this afternoon, as Stephen Haley goes fastest by nearly a second, just over 8/10, or actually just under 9/10, it's safe to say, from the number 88 machine of Daniel Williams. Ashley Coverdale is in 3rd position, just over a second off the pole time. This is the number 5 machine of Darren Wilkes for Sim Wilco Racing, the Hyundai Elantra. Clearly the car of choice tonight. We have only Hyundais and Audis, but we have of course, more than one kind of Hyundai here on iRacing. We have the Veloster on the grid as well. The very strange 2 doors on one side, 1 door on the other layout Veloster that Hyundai have brought to the table. It's great to see a race car be made out of something like that. But to be honest, TCR has sort of defined Hyundai's racing program, hasn't it, Steve? I mean, they've got the i30N, the Elantra, and the Veloster as well, as one of the Elantras goes doing a bit of grass track in there, which is Darren Wilkes, but they make some ruddy good race cars to Hyundai. I mean, they make some really good road cars as well. I'd really love an i30N.
Yeah, it's one of those brands, isn't it? I mean, I think I'm a little bit older than you, Chaz, and you know, I remember Hyundai and the likes launching their cars in the UK and in Europe and being a bit of a joke, but it's good to see how things have developed, and they were the sort of manufacturers that came out with their 5 and 6 year warranties and things like that, which was never heard of, and they stood by the products, and yeah, some of the cars they produce these days are absolutely awesome, and like you say, there's some pretty exciting cars, and these TCR cars are they're not to be excluded from the list, because I know Stephen Haley switched to the new Hyundai, and he's sort of regretting it a little bit, because it is a new car to learn and it's a different beast completely from the old Hyundai. But I think it puts a big smile on his face every time he takes it out.
Oh yeah, it's like a sort of hatchback crossed with a coupe, effectively, the Veloster. It's a very interesting shape of car. It's not the sort of bigger saloons like the Audi that we look at and the Elantra here. Number 88 machine of Daniel Williams, of course, part of the TSR Broccoli Racing squad. Great looking machine as well, actually. I love the bright contrast of the green and yellow, almost like Lotus with a bit too much yellow on it from back in the day, or the old sort of Caterham colours that we used to see. But the Elantra makes a good old rasp, and a lot of turbo flutter noises as well. Fastest at the moment, though, is Martin Bridson, which is one of the teammate cars, of course, of Daniel Williams. You can tell them apart by their wheels, I've noticed. Daniel Williams is running the black wheels today. Martin Bridson has bright yellow wheels on his car, matching the livery. Matthias Niger is second as well.
Yeah, just going to say it's good to say I'm working with the pro, because I've been following this championship for a few weeks and I've not even noticed that, to be honest. But in my defence, I'm usually operating the cameras and not talking on these streams. So but it's good to see the lads, as Cameron 5 just runs a little bit wide there. Cameron suffering with a lack of practice, I think, today. He's just literally jumped on the server tonight, but credit to the lad, he's jumped in, he's going to have a go and he's going to have some fun. But and that's what it's all about. I mean, I don't know about you, Charles, but I'm not the fastest driver out there, and when I race these guys with the TCRs, I jump in the Honda because it's such a lively beast, and I'm sort of disappointed that we don't have one on the grid tonight. I know a chap called Steve Parker, who races with us, he raced in it last season with us, and he said it took a little bit of taming and it was a little bit aggressive, but I think when you're at my level and you're not looking for the wins, you're just looking to have some fun. It's cars like that are good fun, and they're a great addition to the grid.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to have more and more cars on a grid, and it's been great to see that iRacing have properly adopted that with TCR, because we were all so worried for so long that it was only ever going to be the Audi, and that was it, because of course they have the TCR cars because of their participation in IMSA over in the United States. So it's not because of TCR Europe, Italy, Spain. Well, I mean, to be fair, if they wanted the TCR Spain grid, they'd only have to scan 2 cars, and there's only 5 of them on the grid. But there's a lot of them in the UK TCR scene now, even the Subaru as well, Antwerp Niels and Jamsport racing the Subaru, which is fantastic to see. But yeah, having a multi-car single class championship is always exciting. I love watching it. Touring car racing is probably my favourite form of motorsport ever. I love me some GT cars and GT3s, but touring cars, relatable road cars, I think that's the best thing. You could see a Hyundai Elantra or a Hyundai i30N on the road and you think, flipping heck, there is a long way to go for that to turn into a touring car, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, when you go to the touring car grids, or if you're lucky enough to get up close and personal with them, and and have a look around them and hear them up close, they are, the silhouette's the same.
Yeah.
but pretty much after that, it's a lot of engineering, a lot of talent, a lot of science, and a lot of skill. They are totally different beasts, but like you say, they are relatable, and it's great. And I hope that iRacing do really carry on with what they're doing and build this grid, because for us this is our season 2. Season 1 we managed round about 8 or 9 drivers every round. This time we've dropped tonight, but we've been getting 15, 16 and 20 drivers on the grid, so hopefully those numbers will return. And I do think that TCR is creating a following within the iRacing community. I think there are lots of leagues out there now.
Yeah, it's been good to see that there is more and more love for it all the time, and I know a number of guys that they never really enjoy. I don't want to say they didn't enjoy touring car racing, but it's not at the top of everybody's list, and I mean it's a real shame to know that. And I hope that, of course, we do sort of see more and more people get dragged into it, essentially, whether they be screaming or kicking or what. But I mean, as we discussed earlier, I was at Oulton Park on the weekend watching the Classic Touring Car Racing Club, which of course hosts the Super Touring Car Championship, with Anthony Reid and John Cleland driving their in-period cars, and it's just I mean, it shows you how far touring car racing's come, as before we know it, qualifying's over. Bridson, Niger and Williams, your top three. Flipping out, that flies by.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's good to be chatting, but let's have a quick look at the grid there, and we can see that Bridson's got that pole position with a 127.366, and Niger's just pretty much a tenth back, so it's pretty tight at the front. You've got half a second back to Williams, and then another big jump back to Steve Haley. Steve will be a little bit disappointed with that one, Chaz in fourth place.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, he's the championship leader coming into this, only by a tiny margin, so he could definitely try and turn that back around as the race goes on, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess. And hopefully for him, this gets a little bit easier as this night goes on, because it is not a simple place to race at all, this Silverstone. It can be very, very difficult. Just waiting to see now how these guys handle the start, though, because, again, front-wheel drive cars, not easy to get off the line here. So they're going to have to make sure they just manage the clutch, slide things nice and easily, because at the end of the day, some people just absolutely plant their foot and it just goes screaming on away, and it's just wheel spin, wheel spin, wheel spin all of the way. So
yeah, absolutely. Now. They are difficult to get off the line. I've noticed that myself, to be fair, and starting is not my strong point, but we're just about to get things underway.
We are indeed. Lights coming on, and the first race of the night gets underway, and again you can hear the wheel spin. Listen to it go. Ashley Coverdale as whoa down the inside there. I think that's Dan Blackwell. He's gone around the outside, sorry, in the Audi to try and make a bit of ground. Scary moment there as he went side by side with Stephen Haley, but Mattis Niger's got the lead. Martin Bridson's had a nightmare of a start and lost multiple positions off the line. Ashley Coverdale with a bit of pressure from... Whoa, he's lost the back end. He flicks it to the left through Maggots, and away it goes. It properly gets away from him there, as there's cars around as well. Dan Blackwell involved. But Mattis Niger leads the way. Daniel Williams in second place. Then it's Stephen Haley who's just got ahead of Martin Bridson.
Oh, he's outbraked himself there though. Run deep, Steve Haley. Absolute hero to zero in one corner.
Yeah, it's easy to do that. Easy to push it too hard. I'm going to say this out loud here, Steve, but I don't think we're seeing the same pictures. I think my SDK is trying to kick my own head in here, because I'm seem to be stuck on Ashley Coverdale right now. So I'm not quite sure why I'm seeing Ashley instead of what's going on up front, but he had a very, very big moment as he got through Maggots, and the back end just completely got away from him. Very, very odd indeed.
There you go, mate. You should be seeing the same pictures now, so we can...
Yes, Martin Bridson now.
Let's just have a quick look at what Dan Blackwell did for everybody that didn't see it.
So he was making his way up to Maggots. Now, you're going left here and then getting on the brakes and then turning it to the right, but just as he steps on the brakes, the back end steps out and it goes around, and it's a tiny tap from the 13 of Cameron Fife, and that's all it can take sometimes as we go back to Martin Bridson in third position. Car 65 chasing down his teammate Daniel Williams. The two Elantras trying to keep in touch with Mattis Niger, who made a really good start, got everything he needed to do done very, very early. And this gorgeous looking Audi RS3 LMS TCR hard onto the brakes into the Abbey hairpin. You can see the understeering TCR cars, can't you, sometimes, Steve? The way that they just sort of wiggle their way around some of these corners can be quite painful almost, when you see how hard they have to turn to get the things just working as intended.
Yeah, absolutely. It is difficult, but they are quite twitchy, and it's all about keeping it under control and just hitting those apexes, keeping lines. But they're getting pretty well spread out at the moment as it stands. The Broccoli boys are probably the closest on track, but they are teammates, so I don't expect any shenanigans there. But from my experience, watch out for Simon Wilkes. He normally comes good through the race, and Stephen Haley will keep fighting. So Simon Wilkes and Stephen Haley are my hot tips now to try and close up on these guys up ahead. If anything goes awry, they'll definitely be ready to pounce.
Through Cops we go once more then with Martin Bridson as Dan Blackwell at the back of the pack is trying to chase down Cameron Fife. They go down towards Copse right now. We go on the front of Dan's car. You can see Cam just getting a bit of a wiggle on there. The car suddenly grips at the front end, and Blackwell gets the run on the back of him. Doesn't quite make it work yet on the way in. Got broccoli emojis in chat from Mr. Fantastic. This is Audi versus Hyundai. Two of the more saloon-shaped cars. Of course, the Audi RS3, based on the hatchback version of the RS3, but they then made a saloon version as well. They used to run an S3 in the British Touring Car Championship under the NGTC regulations. Blackwell looks down the inside. Cam sees him come in, locks up the rear brakes almost on the Hyundai, and then you go. Cameron just slots back in front. Back onto the front left of the car we go. You can see here Cam is just trying to dance around as we go through bridge. And he looks again as he comes off the brake, tries to throw the car down the inside, but nothing doing. He's trying everything he can, though, now to get that position back, and that's the thing, isn't it? You need to be able to bounce back very quickly when you've lost a place like that, Steve. You have to be hot on it.
You do indeed, and talking hot on it, we've got Darren Wilkes and Ashley Coverdale ahead that are battling away as well. They were very, very close in that previous corner, but Darren Wilkes just losing a little bit of ground now, but he's I think he's regrouping for another attack, and he's going to be very much in the slipstream as they just come out of, well, I'm getting confused with car names. I was going to call that turn 1, but that's ACC's fault.
Yeah, indeed. No, it is turn 1, it's Copse. Copse is turn 1 here on the international layout. This is the problem with Silverstone.
Pushing hard, but I think that position has now gone away from him, and I think Ashley Coverdale's got just enough breathing room now maybe to move on, and I think Darren Wilkes is going to have to start looking in his mirror at Dan Blackwell.
Yeah, indeed. He needs to make sure that he's got it all covered off right now, but that's the problem. When you're starting to attack the car in front of you, you suddenly have to think about what the car behind you is going to be doing as well. And it's not a position that Darren Wilkes is going to want to be in. Moritz Wagner is trying to get the sim sorted. He's had a few issues with it, and he's actually joined the session and tried to get out there on track to be a part of the race. Looks like he's got moving, which is good, because earlier he was having a real nightmare getting it loaded at all. Darren Wilkes is having a bit of a nightmare now as Blackwell closes right up behind him. It doesn't quite work for him. That time round, he doesn't put his nose down the inside enough to make a move. Look at the understeer from the front of Darren's car there on the almost GT car-like steering wheel that you get in the Hyundai Elantra. It's not a completely round wheel with a top on it, but now he's going to be seeing double because he's got Audi in front, Audi behind. They both part of the same squadron, the BPC Racing Bauka Performance Cars Racing Machines.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing there, Chaz? That Dan Blackwell was carrying a cone with him at that point.
Yeah, he's just trying to really, really use any sort of weapon that he can against Darren Wilkes, but still, nothing can stop him. Yeah, that's the one of the things with iRacing is they can pick up debris like that. As he's managed to get down the inside into Brooklands, I think there might have been a tiny, tiny netcode tap there, but Blackwell goes through.
That was a great move. Great move. Yeah. Great move. He set that one up really. He unnerved Darren Wilkes. Darren Wilkes was forced to go wide and left the door wide open, and he obviously Dan just slotted that Audi through, and he's onwards and upwards. It'll be interesting to see what the Bauka Performance cars can do now from that position. See if they can move forward a little bit. The two Audis.
And right at the front of the field, Mattis Niger continues to lead this race by 1.2 seconds. He's got Daniel Williams and Martin Bridson, two TSR Broccoli Racing cars on for podium finishes at the moment. There's another cone being carried on my screen by Simon Wilkes in the background, with Stephen Haley a further 3 and a bit seconds back. Coverdale's just been off though, and he's lost ground to Blackwell. Blackwell's gone through already, so that's teammates swapping positions further down the pack.
That'd be team orders, I reckon.
Well, I think Coverdale went off for just a moment, and he won't be too chuffed with that. Maybe just went a little bit hot on the exit of Maggots. Here's Darren Wilkes really parking the car on the apex down there at Abbey. As we look back behind us, there is Cam Fife in the number 13 CFM machine. Gorgeous looking car at the front is the Elantra. I remember first seeing one at Circuit Barcelona Catalunya at the end of last year. I'd never seen the TCR car before, and one of the very first ones to come off the production line. was racing at Catalunya, supporting Clio Cup, and, well, actually, I'd say Clio Cup was supporting it in TCR Spain, and I thought, what on earth is this thing? Because they'd taken the Hyundai badges off it. You know, it was difficult to tell what it was, because we don't get the road car of it, really, over here in the UK. And it's such an awesome looking car, and it's just as raspy as it sounds in the sim. It's nowhere near as loud as the Civic. The Civic is the most garishly loud thing you can have in TCR racing, but still, it's a fantastic, fantastic car. Now, the Audi, of course, it's a long-serving, sturdy workhorse on iRacing in terms of TCR racing, and Dan Blackwell certainly showing us that he knows, well, maybe how to chuck it a little bit too deep into maggots, actually. But he's certainly pushing hard into there, isn't he, Steve?
Yeah, I think there's been a few drivers there, to be honest. That's one of the corners that seems to be catching quite a lot of the guys out tonight, and just pushing wide. But tell you what, Cameron Fyfe, he's regrouped, and he's definitely pushing Darren Wilkes now. He's in the slipstream, a little bit of movement left and right from both of them, and yeah, Cameron just he's being conservative, and he's
there you go.
Patience, it paid off.
It did, down the inside. Well, it might not have yet. Let's see. It's a fantastic fight back on the exit by Darren Wilkes. He certainly used that inner line on the exit, and he stays in front. Now, what can Cam do to come back at that? Because as we saw before, you can sort of unnerve Darren around the latter part of the lap here. It's very, very tricky to carry speed through these corners. Into the left-hander at Brooklands. Get it nice and tidy and set up for Luffield. It's a really hard corner itself, especially in front-wheel drive cars. Look at that. Cam is piling the lock on there, really putting temperature through the tyres. That won't be helping those front tyres too much, to say the least. You could hear the tyres scrubbing like mad as he made his way around there. As now back down towards Copse we go. Really need to carry the speed. He gets his nose down the inside of Darren Wilkes. Needs to be careful not to run wide into him. They nearly make contact, but they get away with it. Down towards Maggots once more. Cam seems to have designed that car in a way where we can't see the numbers on it, or at least I can't on my screen anyway. Whoa! Chucks the back end sideways through Maggots. Somehow saves it, collects it together. I've realised now I just don't have the decal layer on at my end, so that's my bad. But on my screen, I don't have the decal layer on his car, so I can't actually see the number 13 because it's not stamped on. Or at least it is, but it's black against black. Anyway, that doesn't matter. You can see it on your screens at home, and that's what matters to us. Down the inside he goes with Darren Wilkes. Darren tries to cut across. Oh, he doesn't leave the room down the inside. Cam gives him another tap. Oh, Darren really just left the door open on the way in and then decided to slam it in his face on the exit there. A little bit scrappy, but that's touring car racing, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. TCR, nothing wrong with that. I don't think there'll be any protests from either driver for that, because they're still fighting, they're still pointing in the right direction, and nobody lost any ground to each other. And Cameron, really, I mean, to be fair to Cameron, he's been very, very measured with his attack. He's had a couple of good goes at Wilkes up ahead, and he's been sensible with them all. There's been occasions when we thought potentially contact was going to be likely, but it's not. As Wilkes goes very, very wide, is that Cameron's chance to get a run. I think Wilkes might get away with that because he's got a big enough gap, but Cameron is closing the gap down now. He's following through full throttle, and he's going to maybe just get a run onto the next corner.
I think Darren there just saying to everybody, remember, Hyundai are a leading force in the World Rally Championship. Maybe not in an Elantra. As Cam makes his way through on the left-hand side, just pokes his nose in front. That's going to be the preferred line on the way into Maggots, and the attack is complete. Needs to keep it nice and tidy through the right. Whoa, we'll say keep it tidy. Hard onto the brakes. Exit of Maggots. Lovely, lovely stuff. Now, Moritz Wagner was just off to the side of our shot there. He's pulled over to the side, probably after another technical issue. Or unfortunately, he says that he's still trying to fix it, so hopefully he can get it sorted and maybe pop into the second race. But Cameron Fyfe making a nice move, and like you said, Steve, very measured attack there, and it's paid off in the end. But here is your race leader, Mattis Niger, now 1.9 seconds clear.
Yeah, he's just doing what he does, and Mattis is one of those drivers as well. If you give him an inch, he takes a mile, and he doesn't make many mistakes. He'll go out there and he'll pound the laps down, he'll wind that clock down to zero, and he'll just keep doing what he needs to do. And he's a great chap to have racing for Simsport Racing International, outleading the championship, outleading the race at the moment, and valuable points for the championship as well. As we were saying earlier, Steve Haley's leading the championship at the minute, but he's only clear by 2 points. So it's all still to play for. This is only round 3, and with 2 races at each round, it's obviously 6 races after tonight have been completed. So to be still 2 points clear at the moment is pretty tight going. But just seeing the background there, the Broccoli boys, as I said, they're keeping team orders. They're not really tangling up with each other. They've got a good gap between themselves. It's Simon Wilkes, as I said before. Need to watch Simon. He's got the potential to close it down, but at the moment he's not really showing any of that potential. But let's not forget, as it stands at the moment, Blackwell would be on pole position for race number 2 with Haley lining up alongside him on the front row. So get ready for some scraps in race 2.
Yeah, indeed. The reverse grid is really going to spice it up. And at the moment, these guys just need to keep it on the island. And the thing is, you may say as a driver that, you know, a race like this where it spreads out a bit, it won't be the most exciting race of your sim racing career, but at the same time it can be one of the most challenging because you've not always got that physical reminder and that physical reference of other cars around you that you can use to compare your pace to. You're the sort of master of your own fate, lap after lap, corner after corner. You're the one that has to determine when you're going to brake, when you're going to turn in, when you're going to get on the power. There's nobody else to feed off in that regard. And right now, Darren Wilkes is sort of benefiting from having Cameron Fyfe in front of him. He can react to when Cam brakes, when he accelerates, when he turns in, and he can just try and match that or better it. And right now, he's sticking with him.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's almost like roles reversed, isn't it? Obviously, when Cameron was behind, he had that advantage, and he made it pay. And he climbed all over the back of Wilkes and managed to get the overtake done. Now it's roles reversed, like you said, and Darren Wilkes is applying that pressure, and Cameron's not shaking him, and taking a little bit of the curb and a little bit of the grass there, Darren Wilkes. But yeah, he's certainly making an effort to come back. And it's like you said right at the beginning of the stream, there was you need to fight back when an overtake's done. You don't want to let it go. You need to fight back. And I thought Wilkes was going to shove it up the inside there, but Cameron managed to pull it back round for the apex there and keep it tight. So he shut the door in Darren's face.
Yeah, he did a good job of it. And that's the sort of hard defending that you need to put on sometimes in this sort of racing. Like we saw before, contact is sometimes inevitable in touring car racing, but as long as they both get away with it and both survive, it's fine. You can see how hard they're both pushing, though. Darren's trying to go as late as he can on the brakes, but both of them are putting, I'd say, maybe a little bit too much temperature through those front tyres. You know, we can see them putting a mile of lock on, but then you look here at the Broccoli boys together. They're just feeding it in bit by bit and using only as much lock as you need. It's easy to overdo it in a TCR car and really scrub the fronts. And it's important that you manage them over a run. I can't believe that people do endurance racing in TCR cars. I mean, they're very good at it. But the fact that you can put hours and hours through front tyres in a touring car like this when they're dead after like 20 minutes, unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. We did I loosely call it a fun race, but we did a Nordschleife TCR race to end off last season. No points were up for grabs, but we just did, I think it was 40 minutes. Oh, Darren got all kinds of in the back of Cameron's boot then, and not sure how that's affected Cameron, but damage-wise, but it almost looked like a bit of netcode as well there, so hopefully no serious damage, but it's just pushed Cameron on, and he certainly knows that Darren's wanting that position back, and again he just misses the apex a little bit there, runs a little bit deep, which will have cost him some time, but it's all getting very, very close. And I tell you what, these Broccoli boys as well, they're pretty close, and I'm not quite sure the team orders are going to stand for too much longer.
Well, according to the official Hyundai brochure for the Elantra, the boot is 14.4 cubic feet in American measurements, so I think Darren Wilkes was making sure it was about 10, just so it didn't pass certain standards. But he was either that or he was making sure. He was like, do you think we can fit 14 feet of the front of my Hyundai into the back of yours? Anyway, the two Broccoli cars getting closer and closer together here. Martin Bridson, after starting on pole position, is now only 3 tenths behind his teammate Daniel Williams, but the two of them trying their best to move forward and potentially catch up with Matis Niger, but Matis lap times are really, really good indeed. Other than the last lap, which was 2 tenths slower than Daniel Williams, 1 tenth slower than Bridson. They're clear of everybody else except Stephen Haley, who did a 28.09, 28.07 by that man there, Daniel Williams. So there are differences in terms of the lap times that these guys are able to put out. Right now is a massive send by Darren Wilkes up the inside. I think he was a little bit overconfident where We've seen him going very deep on the brakes before now. He just threw it in a little bit too hard, didn't he? A bit too much confidence in his ability there, I have to say. Somehow they both carry on, but again, incredibly tough and incredibly robust TCR cars. I think he wants to try and let Cam through, or Cam wants to say, oh look, your boot's 14.4 cubic feet as well.
Yeah, I think to be fair, credit to Cam Fife on that one. I think Darren was ambitious, and I think Cameron sort of saw him coming at the last minute and managed just to turn back out of it almost. And yeah, he's flashing the lights there. I think he's feeling a bit hard done by, and probably rightfully so. But just a little bit of contact again, a little bit of a nudge, and I think it don't think it'll be long before Cameron's back through into that position and back up to 8th place overall. Good to see everyone in the chat this evening. Andrew Fife, Cameron's granddad's watching on, so welcome Andrew, and Mike Yao. While he's working, he's having a watch. He's just seeing what the competition's doing and picking up a few tips maybe.
Well, I can only apologise that you have to listen to my voice once again while you're working, Mike. Anyway, Cam sends it down the inside into Brooklands. I think that contact down at Abbey, to be fair, was Darren went too hot on the brakes anyway. Cam followed him in there too hot on the brakes, and they just sort of concertinaed together. I was imagining Cam might have retaliated in a bit of frustration, and that's frustration as well. He got on the power too early out of Luffield, too much lock on, and the car just went straight on. These guys are really trying to push the limits of what those Elantras can do. I think they're killing their tyres in the process as well. This is the Cone Collection Agency here of Dan Blackwell. He says, we'll rearrange this. He's got 2 on the front of the Audi as he makes his way past us down towards Abbey. One of them surely is going to pop off. Well, one's gone on my screen. The other one's inside the grill right now. So I hope for his sake it doesn't stay that way. Otherwise, that is going to feel absolutely horrendous. It's still on there on my screen as well. But as we may have seen, I've just noticed on the stream that he's not got any on the front of his car anymore. So that shows you the differences in how they can render for different people on different sims. It's actually disappeared now completely at my end as well. So hopefully for Dan, that's the same case, Steve, because I mean, he could still have them both there for what we know. Yeah,
that might just upset the handling characteristics of the car if the front end's trying to ride over a couple of cones. But it's all looking good at this end, so we'll just go on that. But again, it's looking like team orders in play here. These two guys running pretty close together. The Broccoli boys in 2nd and 3rd running close together, not really changing positions. The main battle this evening, and I think all the royalties from this stream, all 50p, should go to Cameron Fife and Darren Wilkes, because they provided the most entertainment tonight, because they've given us some really good battling. Yes, there's been a little bit of contact, a little bit of rubbing, like you said, but absolutely phenomenal racing.
I can't believe that the race is already over, actually. I was looking at the lap counter rather than the timer, so I apologise for that. But Mattis Niger has taken the win. TSR Broccoli Racing get 2 cars on the podium. Daniel Williams 2nd. Martin Bridson finishes the race in 3rd place, ahead of Simon Wilkes, and then Stephen Haley was 5th. But I totally agree with you that it should have been absolutely all of the money going to the lads at the back there, because Cameron Fife and Darren Wilkes, great battling. I think Cam just needs to look after those tyres a little bit better in the second one.
Yeah, for sure, and we've got that grid up for the reverse grid now, so the top 6 are reversed, and we've got Dan Blackwell sitting on pole position nicely now, Stephen Haley in 2nd place, Simon Wilkes lines up in 3rd alongside Martin Bridson, then we've got Daniel Williams on row 3 with Mattis Niger in 6th position alongside him, Ashley Coverdale and Darren Wilkes, Cameron Fife and Mortis Wagner. Hopefully Wagner has no issues now, and we can get some good racing. That's 10 cars starting race 2.
It will be good to see as the lights have come on and we're getting underway with Dan Blackwell from the very front. Oh, Stephen Haley's really popped backwards off the line. Mattis Niger's had a dream start. 3 places gained for him. He's going to make it 4. He goes to the right-hand side of Steve, then the left-hand side of Steve. The number 1 machine has the inside line into Cops, and just behind them as well, Daniel Williams trying to come through there as well. Side by side as they make their way down towards Maggots. Moritz Wagner has actually gained 2 places off the start. He gained 3, but he's lost 1 again. So it's a net 2, as I think there was contact. There's cars sideways as well. Oh, Wagner's off the road. Coverdale's off the road. Wagner drops down. Williams has really had a slow run through Maggots as well. And on the exit, he's got Bridson and Wilkes right behind him. Very, very close between all of the Hyundais here that we have on our screens. But it's Blackwell, Haley and Niger, the top 3. Let's have a look. Whoa, no team orders there, as it was said in the chat before, as Bridson throws one down the inside of Williams. Oh, Williams comes back across to the apex. I don't think he knew that Simon Wilkes had got his nose down the inside. He might feel quite hard done by there. But Simon Wilkes, he was perfectly in his right to put his nose down the inside Stephen. I mean, in those situations, it's hard to know who's where when you've got eyes all over every single mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you've got to on these opening laps. It's a case of just try and give everybody racing room and expect everybody everywhere, because you know, it's the opening laps and it's a reverse grid as well. So side by side, I don't think anyone did anything really terribly wrong there, and it's just unlucky for those that got turned the wrong way. But meanwhile, at the moment, Dan Blackwell holding on to that first place, and he showed in race 1 that he has got some pace. He's relatively quick. Stephen Haley, if he's got any extra pace, will be wanting to get a move, and he'll want to get through, because he'll want to use Dan Blackwell to slow the charge down of Niger behind and Bridson, because we know that those two in race 1.
They did indeed. You can see Stephen there just braking a little bit early just to make sure he doesn't make any contact with the back of Blackwell. He wants to do this as fairly as possible if he's going to do it. He needs to just tuck right up behind the back of that RS3. Sounded like there was a bit of contact in the background. I think Wilkes has been off, and we've also got Ashley Coverdale off the road as well. Wilkes is still off the track, so Sim Wilco Racing having a nightmare opening encounter. This is Darren Wilkes. This is on his way down into Maggots. Through the left, through the right. Chucks it down the inside of Cam 5. Oh, Cam turns in, not knowing he was there. And again, that's the second time, I think, where one of the Wilkes has been down the inside. The guy on the outside didn't know they were there. And the white and blue machine is the one that's come off worse. Stephen Haley now, like you said, he's having to focus on what Mattis Niger's doing now, because Mattis is starting to put the pressure on.
Yeah, absolutely, and as I said in race 1, Mattis is a metronome. He'll just keep pushing forward. He's just so methodical in what he does. He's a very, very clean racer. He'll put the pressure on, he'll put his lap times in, and he'll just keep applying pressure until he can work a move. And Stephen's raced with him for many, many races now, and they do know each other very, very well. So I expect some good battling. Dan Blackwell, for myself, he's a little bit of an unknown. I've not really watched Dan race too often, so it'll be interesting to see how he copes with the pressure. And you can see, I think there he was pushing very, very hard, because he just ran a little wide into turn 1, but he's certainly he's doing a good job so far. He's holding his lines, and he's if those two behind, if Haley and Niger start battling, then it might just give him a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, he's going to be hoping for that at least, because when you're in a battle like this, if there's anybody that could put a little bit more pressure on and spice up the result of a fight a bit more, then you want them to really get involved, because so easily here Mattis Niger could not attack the back of Stephen Haley's car, and he could try and follow him up to the front, and that would be Dan Blackwell's worst nightmare. But right now, getting very, very close together indeed. The RS3 against the Veloster, through bridge they go, and you can see, look, he's not even putting 90 degrees of steering lock on. He's actually having to correct it on the brakes there. But we saw earlier Cam 5, and it was Darren Wilkes, wasn't it, that were just piling the lock on and really hurting those front tyres. But in these cars, you need to realise where the maximum amount of sort of grip is, and just not put any more lock on than that, because you will shred the tyres to bits. Stephen Haley, though, he's just trying to make this Veloster work. He's the only one in the field, and it certainly does stand out, especially with the livery as well. I love the sort of matte black effect on it as well, sort of contrasting against the lime green with all of the badges and sponsors and all sorts all over it. And again, he is like the sort of, it's like a reverse Newton's cradle. Rather than the bits on the outside smacking against the bit in the middle, it's actually Stephen Haley who's bouncing off these two cars either side of him, where the gap extends one way then the other as well. Blackwell's lost it. Blackwell very sideways through Maggots, and Stephen Haley says, well, thank you very much, mate. It's a free ticket to the dance. I'll bring my dress back later.
Blackwell's doing his favourite pastime and collecting cones again. Yeah, now we have got a battle for the lead, as we just seen in the background. Bridson's just got past Blackwell as well, so in the space of 2 corners it's looking like Blackwell maybe has lost 3 places, but Bridson's not quite got the job done yet. But it's difficult to know where to look at the moment, because we've got Niger putting all sorts of pressure on Haley as well, but Haley's absorbing that pressure at the minute, but he's not really free to drive his line. He's having to be very defensive, and in fact he's pushing out a little bit wide there, and Niger's trying to cut back tight, but it hasn't quite worked for him. But meantime, Bridson's got that move completed, and he's up into 3rd place now.
Yeah, he needs to not look in his mirrors now at Blackwell and just focus, eyes forward, and push, chasing on after Mattis Niger and Stephen Haley, and he's going to hope that they continue to fight with each other and they continue to put each other under pressure. On board now with Mattis Niger, looking forward at the Veloster in front of us. It's a very odd-looking little car from the back, I must say, but it is a fantastic formula for a race car. Look at that. Mattis takes a later apex, manages to get a good run out of the corner, but he's off the road to do it. I wouldn't agree with it if he got through at this point. Stephen Haley wouldn't either. He slams the door in his face and says, no chance, boy. No chance at all.
I think Mattis had to just maybe lift a little bit there, and it cost him a little bit of momentum, which it made it all fair in the end, because I agree. I think if he'd have had that overtake off track, that would not have been fair. But look at that, Steve Haley having to defend very, very early, and it's difficult for him, isn't it? He's having to park in the middle of the track, and look at this now. We've got three of them into one apex, and that's Bridson being maybe a bit aggressive. I'm not sure if Nigel left the door open for him there, but we've got 3 wide almost now.
Yeah, there wasn't much patience on offer there from Martin Bridson. He saw a gap and he went for it, and Blackwell's actually got ahead of him in that situation. We've got Cameron Fife off the road a bit further down the order, unfortunately. But yeah, it did get a little bit scrappy there, to be honest with you. Haley went in a bit hot. Mattis Nigel nearly went into the back of him, and then Bridson saw a gap and just, well, threw it in there. There's cones and everything all strewn across the surface of the track as we get into Luffield. But we're already 7 minutes through this race, and it's a fantastic quartet fighting for the race lead. Cameron Fife has actually jumped to the pits there, Steve. Not sure if we can get a look at what's happened to him, but his race seems to be temporarily at a halt, and looks like he's actually properly out of the race.
Yeah, I think let's have a quick look. He just went off track in quick succession, so let's have a quick look, see what happened to him.
So this is...
Oh, that looks like a hardware issue. Yeah, that's race ending.
Yeah, just to say the least. Yeah, at least the bumper is facing the front of the car as well. Oh, very sideways. Oh, no, he didn't quite get it saved. A couple of sort of downshifts there, and then hard on the throttle might have just about kept the momentum in that, but I think he's clipped the outside. Oh, no, he's lost it on the brakes. Usually you see people clipping the grass on the left-hand side there, and it really throws the car sideways, but he just lost it on the brakes, and it's not the first time that we've seen that from the Audi, because it was his teammate, wasn't it, Coverdale in the first race, that lost the back end and went left. Cam Fife got a VR freeze. So basically, when in iRacing, obviously, and most sim racing, your inputs are determined by frames per second. So it calculates whatever you're doing with the steering wheel and the pedals and everything else, and how it relates to the car per frame. That's how people apparently get the edge now as well, is having 165 Hz monitors over 120 and 144. That's the sort of level we're at. But if your screen isn't sort of communicating any frames back and what the car is doing and so on, the software itself can't just sort of make it up. So a lot of the time, screen freezes do cause more of an issue than you would think in this sort of level of the sport. So unfortunately, as effectively Cam's screen, which is his VR headset, froze in that moment. It wasn't receiving any frames, nothing was changing, and all it did was continually apply the last input that it received, and he went into a straight line into the wall. That's the sort of technical insight to it anyway.
Well, 10 out of 10, it was spectacular, certainly.
Yeah, fair play, Cam.
But what I will say is, I mean, that's when we talk to a lot of the professional esports racers and we watch them racing on streams through the Zoom calls and things, there's not many of them use VR, and I think that's one of the reasons, isn't it? It's great for immersion, but it still does suffer with a few bugs here and there, more so than maybe using monitors. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, and, you know, I don't want to say this out loud, really, but I'm going to, so this is a risk. But I won't lie to you. When I've seen a number of drivers before in sim racing leagues that I've run as well, you know, I've known a lot of people through sim racing for a lot of time, and I've seen people go to VR and, you know, they say, oh, it's great for, you know, immersion and spatial awareness because you can see more around you, you can see what's going on. But it actually makes them take a few more liberties with what they can see around them, and sort of discussing how long the car is with people. You know, they think the car is smaller than it is. The actual peripheral vision and the perception of knowing exactly where the car is, it leads them to be a little bit more pushy, and sometimes that actually makes racecraft a little bit worse, as daft as that sounds. And I mean, I get motion sick, so I'm never going to race in VR anyway, but I think the fact that you can use triple monitors, get the peripheral vision around you in a fixed position and still see your surroundings, that's important to me. I actually had a friend whose cat knocked over his drink onto his PC once while he was racing in VR, and he didn't know it had happened. And, you know, if that had have caught fire or whatever, you know, how long would it, you know, it's not even worth mentioning, but, you know, how long would it take to realise that? And I couldn't race in not seeing my surroundings. I think I'm a bit too paranoid about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I race in VR and love it, but I am thinking of
You've
switching.
not got a cat, have you?
I've got 2 cats.
Oh, heck.
I am thinking that I'd like to go back to monitors, but I was on a single monitor and I would like to go to triple, so there's a lot of investment to do that, to be fair. So it won't happen just for now. I'll be happy broadcasting, but yeah, I can see the pros and cons of both, but at the moment that's a move up the insider with a little bit robust, that one from Niger. But yeah, Steve, like I say, these guys race together all the time, they'll be used to that. Steve's just shrugged it off and he's carried on his way, but he's not going to make it easy for Mattis, and Mattis is certainly showing some ambition.
Yeah, I think he's quite lucky there that iRacing's perception of TCR cars doesn't have them as realistically made of cracker bread as they are in the real world, because the toe link would be absolutely done on both of those cars after wheel-to-wheel contact like that. So it's good to see that the little Veloster and the beefy Audi have both managed to continue. It was a great send up the inside, to be fair, and Stephen went a little bit late and a little bit deep into Brooklands, and Mattis tried to capitalise, but obviously with Haley getting on the power and using all of the lock that he could on the exit, it sort of still threw the car in a straight line sort of into Mattis. It was a bit of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but they both survive and they both continue, and the gap for the last couple of laps has not been over a second. Again, Stephen just late on the brakes into Abbey, gets a run off the exit because of it, because it's a sort of slingshot out of there, but Mattis is, I'd say he's getting in Stephen's head right now here, Steve. He's doing exactly what he needs to do, and I mean, he's not forcing his way through, but he's just filling his mirrors, and a menacing Audi like that can do the job.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got the lap times on Steve. Steve said to us before we went live, he wasn't comfortable. He's having to learn a new car through his own choice, but he's not as quick as he was last season. He's carrying that number 1 plate as last season's champion, but Mattis is certainly showing some intent at the moment, and like you say, he's filling the mirrors, he's getting into Steve's head, and but I've raced with Steve now for 5-6 years. I've known him for a long time, and he can deal with that. He'll be fine with it. He doesn't make very many mistakes. I'm just trying to be careful what I say, but he doesn't make many mistakes. He's a very, very competent racer. With both of these guys have got great racecraft, and as much as we might see a little bit of touching of Steve's, he's just locked up on the curb there, but wow, what control!
How did he make the apex there? That was fantastic. The short wheelbase of the Veloster completely sideways, but he just planted his foot, got it chucked in, and somehow the car managed to stop by the apex. That was phenomenal. Mattis Niger looked like he went a little bit deep in it as well. But I totally agree, though. Steve is a really competent racer. I commentate on him in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, where he races in Aston Martin GT4, and Mattis as well, actually. They both race for, funnily enough, the same team. Side-by-side action in different cars, though. This is great stuff to watch. But we do have to be careful as commentators not to curse people. Side-by-side through a bridge is always fun. That's argy-bargy as well. This is proper touring car racing, this, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's looking like, if Mattis gets in front, I think Steve knows that he'll be away down the road, and that's what he's wanting to avoid right now.
Yeah, what Martin Bridson's going to want to avoid as well is piling in a little bit too hot again and catching the back end of Mattis' car, because what I've seen from Mattis Niger so far is he takes a late apex. He focuses on the exit of the corner, which is important here at Silverstone, because there's a lot of places where you can get a big run and a lot of slipstream. These TCR cars do punch quite the hole in the air, so you need to use that to your advantage. Focus on the exit. Bridson holding back a little bit, I think, just to make sure that he's got eyes on any advantages here and he's not too close, packed right in behind these guys, because if you are too close to the opposition and they have a bit of a moment or an issue, and then you can pile into the side of them without even knowing that they've had a problem, he's going to lose out in the long run. We've got Dan Blackwell 4th, Daniel Williams is in 5th, and it's Coverdale. Wagner actually still going at the moment. It's good to see Moritz Wagner out on track. Hopefully if this calms down we can have a look at him in a minute, but this top 3 is an amazing scrap once again as Haley goes deep. So too does Mattis, and look at it, he's just clinging to the back of that little Veloster. Don't really know where to look right now. It's absolutely nose to tail. Bridson again has lost a little bit of time to them. on the exit of that. But honestly, I think Martin will just be playing it safe right now as Niger looks down the inside into Brooklyn. Stephen Haley closes the door on the inside. Mattis lets it run a little bit wide, gives him a bit of a bump. Into Luffield they go. He needs to be careful not to turn in on that left rear corner. Oh, look at that. Slows the car down mid-corner, and Luffield gets a fantastic exit down the inside. Stephen Haley cannot do anything about that. All he can do is squeeze him to the right-hand side as they go through Woodcote. Side by side over the line. We're just over the halfway point in this half-hour-long race. Into Copse they go. Niger's got the inside line. He's got the apex. Can Haley get the cutback? No, he's gone wide as well. He's going to clip that AstroTurf. He's going to clip the back of the Audi. Side by side towards Maggots they go. I don't think Stephen's going to back out of this one. He's not. Niger still turns in. Very, very close. Bridson now looks down the inside. He's going to take advantage on the Veloster. The Elantra goes down the inside. Stephen Haley says, not on your life, son. We need to work together because Niger's going to disappear off up the road. And still the top three remain sort of together, but Bridson's closer to Haley than he is to Niger.
Yeah, halfway point just past of this race now, and Niger's got away, and I think Stephen knows that this is it now. Niger, he'll put a couple of good hot laps in now, and I think that gap's going to grow out a little bit. I think Stephen's going to struggle to hang on to him, and I think the battle now is going to be for that second step of the podium. Barring any mistakes, this is the podium for the race with Niger, Haley and Bridson, but in what order we're not sure yet. But personally my money now is on Niger to pull away, and potentially he's got that top spot safe if he does what I expect him to do now.
Yeah, we've seen before just how controlled and composed he can be, and I think right now Stephen Haley just needs to not get in his own head about losing that race lead, because if he tries to push too hard, if he tries to put the pressure on himself a little bit too much, he will end up throwing it off the road, making a mistake, and then Martin Bridson will be along to capitalise. Wonder if we can just get a look at the Maniac racing machine of Moritz Wagner. It's good to see him actually out on track for this one. He's all on his own here in the Audi, but still great to see that he's managed to get whatever issue he had fixed and get the car back out on track for this second race of the night. I love the livery as well. It's a very striking looking machine. But the number 48 car, 7th position at the moment in this race. Started last, of course, after not competing in the first race, or not completing the first race. So 3 places gained for him. But the biggest mover in the field, I mean, the only driver that's gained more than 3 places is Mattis Niger, who currently leads the race. He's only got a 4/10 of a second lead, though. But there you see the gains on the left-hand side. 1 place each for Bridson and Coverdale. 3 for Wagner. But Niger, 5 spots gained. And to be fair, Steve, he made a couple of them just off the line. He made 3 places off the very start up into 3rd, and that's when he started piling the pressure on to Stephen Haley.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see them making up the positions at the start there and being able to fight their way through like they did. But look at this now. Apologies to everybody else on the grid. We're not getting to show too many of the other cars at the moment, but this is where the battling is, and these are the guys that are fighting. Everybody else seems to be just running a race at the moment and winding the clock down. But Steve Haley is falling backwards now to Bridson. Not so much falling backwards. I think Bridson's hanging on and putting some pressure on him, and Niger is running away with it a little bit now.
Yeah, indeed. Now Stephen needs to focus forwards though, and not fill his mirrors and fill his head with Martin Bridson while he fills his tyres with AstroTurf and a lot of grass that you can drag back onto the circuit from out there at Copse. Into Maggots once more, hard on the brakes. Front wheel drive cars with weight over the rear, easy to lose the back end. That's where the Veloster sort of benefits slightly from that shorter wheelbase though. It doesn't really carry that much weight over the rear end, whereas these saloons obviously have quite a lot more weight to lug around there. The benefits can be though that a saloon, because of that extra weight, has a bit more stability because it's spread further over the entire body of the car. So there's pros and cons to all of it, and it's great to see these 3 different cars all battling away. Daniel Williams is now close to back of Dan Blackwell as well, the BPC racing machine, and TSR Broccoli have taken some good points out of tonight already, getting 2 cars on the podium in the first race. Let's see if they can get at least 2 cars in the top 4, make up 50% of the top 4 in the second race.
Oh yeah, he will do with that.
Oh, that's a big old moment, that is.
Yeah, Dan Blackwell there just getting all kind of sideways and locked up under braking. We've seen that twice with the Audi now, haven't we? So whether it's a bias issue or whether it's just a weight transfer issue, I'm not quite sure, or a combination of both. But we've seen both. I think it was was it both Audis, or was it Dan as well that did it previously?
Yeah, it was both of the Audis having issues, and it's clearly easy to lose it on the brakes, and again it just comes down to the weight over the back of the car just being a little bit loose on the rear. And at the end of the day, we all know that TCR cars, front wheel drive, they can be very, very understeery naturally, so people want to try and dial in the front end as much as they can, make sure that the rear end is just sort of along for the ride, and well, sometimes they can take that a little bit too literally, and it goes on a hell of a ride when they make it a little bit oversteery as such with the setup. So there's a bit of a fragile nature or a fickle nature to TCR cars in that respect, but great to see these guys trying to get the very most out of them every single corner. And you know what? Niger hasn't completely disappeared off up the road here.
He hasn't, no. He's surprised me as Haley's just drifting it in there. He's almost backing the car into the corner, like you're saying, just unsettling that back end to help the rotation and get it turned in. But it's a very, very fine line of balance and having the traction to do that, and getting the purchase on the front wheels to pull it in. And keep it all under control. But Haley doing a pretty good job. Bridson's unable to get past him at the minute, although he's staying in close company, and like you said, Niger's not managing to get away. Now we've got an extra 10 minutes on this race. They have just passed the 20 minutes, so it's be interesting to see if the tyre wear affects any of these guys differently in the final extra 10 minutes of race number 2 now. It may well do. It may be that Niger is struggling with his tyres and he's losing out on some of that pace at the moment, but Stephen Haley he's doing his best to close in. I think if he didn't have Bridson behind him, he may have been able to hang on to Niger a bit closer.
Yeah, definitely. Just that extra little bit of pressure that's just following him along at the moment could be getting into his head and meaning that he can't completely focus on the task ahead of him. But Matas Niger doing a very, very good job indeed. And as Mark has said in the chat, actually, he's looking more comfortable chasing rather than being chased, and I agree. As whoa, big send by Daniel Williams. Look at that. You could see that Blackwell saw him coming there. He'd gone hot already into Abbey. And Daniel Williams there just getting alongside. He's not quite got the overlap, has he, as they get to Bridge? No, it's not there. So Blackwell can turn in, get the Audi through Bridge nice and quickly, hard onto the brakes into Priory, make the run up to Brooklands. And then hard onto the brakes. And again, very difficult corner for these cars. Taking a late apex is usually good just to get that extra little squirt to Luffield, because these corners are absolute nightmare fuel in TCR machines. Long, smooth corners where you have to modulate the throttle and the brakes. That is not something that TCR cars can manage very, very easily. Stephen Haley has lost a bit of time, actually, to Matas Niger here, and unbelievably that was Stephen Haley's best lap. Matas Niger did a 127.64, Stephen Haley did a 127.7. It's a 127.6 from Bridson as well, so he's only 1/10 slower than both of them on that lap, but still, it's slower. A lot of people in motorsport would argue with you, it doesn't matter how much slower. If you beat somebody by 1,000th, you can still call yourself quicker. Stephen Haley, unfortunately, was slower on that lap.
Winning's winning. It doesn't matter whether it's by a mile or by... An actor once said that, I think.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Like you say, could be a mile, could be an inch. Doesn't matter. Winning's winning. Stephen Haley wants to be winning in terms of the Bridson and Haley battle right now, though. The DMA Racing Team, wonderful little Veloster. He's actually made me really fall in love with this car. I saw it a while ago and I thought that looks absolutely awful, but it's a cool car. There's one of them, I think it's reigning champion Lewis Kent racing one in the TCR UK series this year. In the real world, and it's a hell of an interesting car actually. When you get to see it, down the inside goes Williams. It was a fantastic move. Blackwell just didn't see him go for it. It's almost like he's not running with a spotter on Blackwell there. Just turns in, goes for the apex. Suddenly gets a clout in the door. That'll wake you up. But Dan Blackwell, unfortunately for his sake, down to 5th place. But I don't particularly think Daniel Williams did anything wrong there.
No, to be fair, I think it's like I say, it's just about awareness. Maybe he did leave the door open, and and Williams didn't need a second invitation. He sent it in there.
Definitely not.
He's got the job done, got the move made, and I think that'll stand. But Haley's just. I think when we're talking about tyres, maybe it's Haley's tyres that are going off. Although, having said that, like you say, he did his fastest lap on the previous lap, so that would suggest not. It would just suggest that the other two have just got that little bit more pace than him, and Niger is just stretching out now. He's just up the road by just over a second, and Bridson's not really making any big inroads. He keeps braking a little bit later than Stephen. He keeps showing the nose, he keeps diving in the braking zones, but when it matters, he's not there, is he? He's not really had any sort of, aggressive or convincing attacks on Stephen.
No, he's just having these little stabs on the brakes every so often, isn't he? Like you say, just showing his nose, just putting that bit of pressure on, but it's just not enough to get it completed. Although while I'm saying this, he's actually getting it done. Oh, down the inside he goes, bit of contact, door to door. Nothing really untoward there. Stephen Haley clearly thinks so, flashing the lights at Martin Bridson, but Martin had the car alongside. Just a little bit of innocent understeer, I think, just put him into Stephen Haley. We all know how hard it is to get a front-wheel drive car stopped on the brakes in an urgent scenario like that. And again, that is TCR racing in my eyes a lot of the time. You can go for a move. It wasn't like the move wasn't on. He was already alongside. Just a little bit of understeering. You have to be very cooperative in this sort of racing. These aren't formula cars. They can't dart one way then the other very quickly. You have to be patient with what the car can do and anticipate the momentum. I've seen a number of drivers actually this year in Clio Cup Europe in the real world. This is coming up from karting. And, they're treating the Clio racing car like, over a ton of race car, like it's a go-kart and it can still dart around and stuff. And they make contact with one another because they think that they can all avoid it with just one tiny flick of the wheel. But, the extra momentum that these sorts of cars carry, because they're not the most nimble in the world, sometimes people do forget about it. But I'd say it was a good move, to be fair, by Bridson, but not quite enough to put them back in touch with Matas Niger, and if anything, it's hindered them in that regard. And Matas has, again, got quite a bit of daylight behind him.
Yeah, I think the phrase we're looking for that overtake was probably firm but fair. He was there and he wasn't going to back out of it, and Steve, he was far enough alongside. So good racing, and like I say, it's always the same sort of top five. I would say there's top 5 or 6 drivers that are always battling week in, week out. So these guys know each other. And just before Bridson made that move, I was going to say, to be fair, we're coming. The clock's counting down. Expect Bridson to make some more, aggressive moves, as it were, because that's what he does. He will put the pressure on, but when the time's ticking away, like most drivers, he'll start applying that bit more pressure and maybe taking a bit more of a chance, because they've got a good gap behind anyway for him to have done that.
Yeah, that's it. You have to assess the bigger picture. You need to see what sort of gap do we have behind us. Are we going to be at risk if this doesn't go right, or if I lose time from it, or if we both lose time from it? Can we benefit from it in the long run? And if it does go wrong, you need to plan for the worst case scenario. Seemed to me like Bridson did have the plan in mind and just stuck his nose down the inside, got alongside, and then it was just a tiny bit of understeer, but that happens. So Stephen Haley, can he make any more inroads? He's got a bit of slipstream off Bridson now on certain parts of this racing circuit. There are some big runs that you can get down straights and back straights and hard braking zones as well. But I think maybe, as you said before, Steve, the Veloster might just chew its tyres a little bit more than the bigger, slightly more stable Elantra. Although Stephen Haley certainly tried to prove me wrong right now, because he's stuck with him over the course of this lap. Let's compare what the times are over the line, because despite that battle, Bridson and Haley actually did about 0.5 of a second a lap quicker than Matas Niger on that previous lap.
Yeah, and this is going to be the last lap, I believe, isn't it, as well? We're at 29.5 minutes now, so they're going to get the white flag round here now, and Matas is going to, barring any mistakes, come home for a race win. But these two, this battle isn't over. Steve certainly, definitely. He's still applying the pressure, and he's getting some good turning on that car in some of the slower corners. To me, it seems to be in some of the faster sections that he's losing out. He just doesn't seem to be able to hang with Bridson through some of the faster stuff.
There was only 0.07 of a second between the 3 lap times last time round, actually. Stephen Haley was only just faster than Martin Bridson. It was literally a 127.75 for Haley, 127.79 for Bridson, and a 127.82 for Matas Niger. So there's mere thousandths of a second between all 3 lap times. Stephen Haley being the quicker of the 3, but right now it doesn't look like it's counting for much in terms of the difference. Although I think Bridson just went a little bit hot into Abbey, and he's lost a bunch of time to Stephen. Is he going to be able to make a move on him? I don't think he is. We'll have to see, though. All it could take is one big send up the inside from Haley. And look, Bridson taking a tighter line on the inside to Priory. He's going to have to surely defend into Brooklands. Puts the car in the middle of the road. He's going to park it on the apex. I think he's going to just about do enough as long as he gets Luffield right. And then it's going to be time for Matis Niger to take the checkered flag. And it's been a very, very controlled drive. And the Slovakian takes his second win of the night. 2 out of 2 at Silverstone. It's a great night to be Matis Niger. Simsport Racing International take the win. TSR Broccoli Racing's Martin Bridson second ahead of Stephen Haley. And Daniel Williams, despite getting past Dan Blackwell quite a while ago, he's not been able to clear off into the distance. This battle is going to go the way of the Broccoli car, though, in 4th position, Steve. A really, really good race throughout that one, and half an hour certainly flew by.
Yeah, to be fair, 30 minutes it's not long at all when you're watching racing like that. It's some good stuff, and commiserations to Wilkes and Fife, who didn't manage to finish that race, and put on some fantastic racing though in the first race, those two guys, so well done to them, and well done to everybody else who's managed to bring it on home tonight. Simon Wilkes coming home in 8th. Simon's obviously had issues at the start of that race, because Simon is one of those drivers that usually is in the top 6.
Yeah, there was a few cars getting caught in a bit of argy-bargy early on, just while everybody's trying to avoid, well, everybody. You know, it's one of those moments in these races where it all does concertina in the opening laps, and touring cars, they're not as fragile as other race cars, so sometimes people take a few liberties with it maybe. But Simon Wilkes, well, he decides race is done, let's just park it quite literally against the wall, boys, and finish it off. Good to see Moritz Wagner as well finishing the second race of the night after not being out there in the first encounter.
Yeah, absolutely awesome, and you know, some great stuff. And just before we may get joined for some interviews, if once they've calmed themselves down and had a quick discussion. But just before we do, you know, we've got some more events coming up at Simsport Racing International. On iRacing, we've got some fun events coming up. Sign up is now open for the Mazda MX-5 Fun Race on June the 3rd. We're using Oulton Park Fosters. We're using the same format as we are here, so the server does open at 5 o'clock British summertime, but that's for a 2-hour practice session, so plenty of time to get in on the server with a 10-minute quali, race 1 20 minutes, race 2 30 minutes, top 6 reverse, but that's in the Mazdas. And then just for a little bit of difference, June the 17th, we've got the Radicals, same format. Just fun races these though. We're looking to do a championship with E-Team Brit in the not too distant future, and we're just testing a couple of cars and a couple of formats, so it'd be good if anyone wants to sign up. Join us on Discord, and the sign-ups are available for anyone to that wants to have a go. It doesn't matter what your ability is, and we have tried to we've got free content there as well, so there's all you need is an iRacing subscription and you're good to go.
No excuses, that means, in my eyes, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But no, it's always good to get more and more people involved in events like that. Like Steve says, they are fun events. You know, there's no pressure, there's no sort of championships to worry about, there's no aggro. It's just in there for the sake of racing, and, you know, getting people together and doing things for the iRacing community, and just having people socialise through the medium of sim racing is just always really, really good fun, and hopefully we can get some good turnouts for that racing. But it's been a really good night at Silverstone tonight. Fantastic stuff to watch, and it's always good watching touring cars around this older layout here. Like I said at the start of the broadcast, it was the good old super tourers of the British Touring Car Championship used to visit here very, very often, and it's always been exciting to watch them around here. But it looks like we do have a few drivers ready for interviews, and the first of which was the only Hyundai Veloster in the field tonight, but still, he made it look good and he made it go good as well. Stephen Haley joins us for a chat. We've just seen some very, very close to the line slow-mo footage there, Stephen, of you just about missing the grass. It was all millimetre perfect, really, in that race. It had to be, didn't it?
I mean, that particular circuit, that layout is quite a layout, to be fair. And these cars, I love these cars, but I mean, around this circuit were hard.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it is such an old school circuit, and I mean it's an old school layout in itself, like you say. There's a lot of braking zones that are curved, a lot of exits that are curved as well out of corners. I mean, Abbey, you go out of a hairpin, turning right into a corner that suddenly goes left, and it's all really important to get the run. So in a front wheel drive touring car, it's a bit of a nightmare to get the power down in the best of times, isn't it?
It is, especially when you've got two cars hounding you from behind. Mattis seems to get the drive off every corner. Like he's incredible. He's touring car master, Mattis, and obviously Martin. He's right there as well in the other Hyundai. I forgot what to call him now.
Oh, the Elantra.
Oh, that's the one. Yes.
Yeah,
That's the one. I should have stuck with that one.
It's quite the wagon, to be honest. And I mean, the Veloster in itself, obviously, much shorter car. It's a wonderful little hatchback machine. Very interesting in the fact that it's got one door on one side and two on the other. But how is it different to the Elantra from a driver's perspective?
Personally, I feel that under braking, it's a little bit more kind of. It kind of wants to turn. The rear end wants to turn more than the Elantra. A little bit more lively on the rear. Trying to get on the power also but then again it's the front wheel drive. Trying to get on the power in front wheel drive cars, like it's just not happening. You want to try and boot it, but obviously you can't do that because you just kind of keep going forward. There's no turn. Yeah,
you set the front tires on fire and then it sets off. It's quite a handful, but it's been entertaining racing tonight, though. I mean, is it a circuit that you'll want to race again if you can get a bit more time to get used to it?
Absolutely. I love the older version of Silverstone. I've said it before, and I'll probably say it again when they kind of butchered it for the MotoGP boys. But just the nice flowing. I love this track, and I think I'd like to try and do it in some other cars, maybe some Formula 4s, or I reckon the Porsche Cups might be a bit fun around here.
Yeah, I can imagine they would be, actually. They're cars that really extract the best out of most circuits. Anybody that you want to give a quick shout out to tonight, Stephen? Because it's been a good night of points for you, at least.
Thankfully, some good points. Shout out to the wonderful Chaz Draycott for joining us this evening, and all the SSRi boys, all the Porsche Cup GB boys, everybody who's watching.
Cracking stuff. Well, thank you very much, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be here, mate, and good to call some touring car action for the first time in a while. And, well, we look forward to seeing you next time round at Knockhill. So across the border we go.
Yep. Cheers, Chaz.
Cheers. And next up to join us is double race winner tonight after a fantastic evening of racing. We'll be really happy in the beautiful Audi. Mattis Nygaard joins us. Mattis, you look like you had to work a bit harder for the second one of these two races tonight, but it looked like a lot of fun when you were battling with Stephen.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. The second race was really intense, especially the beginning, because I think I had some contact from behind in the fourth or third lap. Mm-hmm. So my wheels alignment was off a little bit, so it was not so easy to stay behind, but then I found my pace and it was pretty good. Nice fights with Stephen.
I was going to say, when the car is straight and the alignment's all right, it's still a bit of a handful at the back anyway. So intriguing to know that you had an extra challenge in there as well. Do you feel like the Audi is a car that has kept improving over iRacing standards, or do you think it's a car that's just a safe bet?
I think it's not easy car to drive, because only big advantage is on the starts, because the standing starts with Audi are pretty easy and you have big advantage. Mm-hmm. You can see this on the first race, but then first laps are pretty hard because back won't always get around you, so you really need to be patient first in the beginnings, and then it's nice.
Yeah, we saw a few drivers have some issues. I think it was the BPC Racing guys having a couple of spins at least in their RS3s in the early stages, and like you say, it's one of the sort of natural things that you get in TCR cars, is that the front end usually is trying to be overtaken by the rear, but still, you made it work tonight, mate, and it was two fantastic race victories. We go to Knockhill next time out. Is that a circuit that you're a fan of?
Yeah, I like it. I tried it right after it was released, and I pretty like it. It's a nice track.
Well, you're probably the only person in the world that isn't Scottish that likes Knockhill, to be honest with you. I certainly look forward to it. I'm definitely going to be watching it, even if I'm not up here in the commentary box. I'll certainly be watching wherever I may be in the world at the time. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to, though, for tonight's performance?
Yeah, my family and Simsport Racing team. And nice, and thank you for the broadcasting. I'm really looking forward to watch it.
Lovely stuff. Well, thank you very much, Mattis. It's great to speak to you, mate. And we will hopefully speak to you at Knockhill next time round.
I hope so. Thank you,
Cheers.
guys. Bye-bye.
Maybe have a quick chat with Martin.
Yes, indeed. The only Elantra driver to show up for an interview, but the Elantra driver that, of course, got the podiums tonight. Martin, welcome to the booth. It was certainly a night where you always had cars either right in front of you or right behind you. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was
It feels horrendously understeery, no matter what car it is. And I mean, in a TCR car, front-wheel drive with all that power up there, it must have felt even worse because it's so flat, isn't it? You don't get helped by any sort of up and down undulation like you would at somewhere like Brands Hatch or Oulton Park.
Yeah, definitely. On some laps you can turn in and there's just nothing there. And you're scratching your head. You don't know why, but it's a weird old track. But yeah, good fun, good points on the table for us. Good team points as well.
Yeah,
we keep our eye on the team championship, so hopefully we're gonna bump ourselves up on both of those tables. Hopefully.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you, mate. And obviously, next time round, speaking of undulation, we go to one of the most undulating circuits in the world at Knockhill. Obviously, a very short lap there, but a very tight and twisty one indeed. Is that somewhere you're looking forward to racing?
Yeah, I think it'd be good fun. I do like Knockhill. It's absolutely chaotic, but always good fun. I think it's made for touring cars, really, isn't it? I don't think anyone's going to leave there without a scratch or a panel dented in. So it should be good fun.
It certainly will be. And thank you, obviously, for jumping in, Martin. Is there anyone you'd like to give a quick shout-out to while we've got you?
Yeah, no problem. So I'll give a shout-out to my nephew, Lorcan. Yeah, he always tunes in when we've got the streams on, and he gets stuck in. He loves it.
Cracking stuff. Well, great to speak to you. Thank you very much for jumping in, Martin, and look forward to seeing how you get on at Knockhill.
Nice one. Cheers, boys.
Cheers. Well, there we go. It's always good to get another insight as well, isn't it? And obviously, speaking to our 3 podium finishes from that second race there, half an hour, I mean, that's tough on front tyres on a TCR car, so hats off to him for managing it for that long.
Yeah, and just reflect what Steve said. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight, Chaz. It's been absolutely awesome to be alongside you with the comms and working the cameras. And I think we, got some good footage for the viewers there. Hope everybody at home enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic fun, and it's absolutely my pleasure. It's been good fun to finally commentate together with you, actually, Steve. It wasn't something I was fully expecting this weekend, but it's great to jump in and jump on at least some touring car action. You know, I love TCR racing. I love touring car racing in general. It's a fantastic category, and it was really, really good fun. But that is unfortunately all we have time for tonight, isn't it?
It is. That just about wraps things up for us here. Obviously, lots of other things coming out very soon on the YouTube channel. And as we discussed a few moments ago, we have got the Radicals next Friday. Sorry, not the Radicals, the Mazdas next Friday night. Sign-ups are open, so please, if you fancy a go, you want to get on the grid, and you've got an iRacing account, just sign up and let's see how many Mazdas we can get on the track. You imagine 20 or 30 Mazdas round Oulton Park will be absolutely awesome.
Oh, yes, it would be. It absolutely would. Well, thank you, everybody that's tuned in tonight. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, of course, Steve, for the wonderful camera work. Thank you to Simsport Racing International for the championship as well. And, of course, for allowing me to be here in the booth. But, as mentioned, that is all we have time for tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody, and we will see you very, very soon. Have a good night.